Thank you to all of our audience members for tuning in today. We're very excited to have Billie and Jerry back, who were speaking last year on our Family Law Now program about AI, and very pleased to have Luv joining us as well today, whose colleague was here last year as well, speaking to us about technology in the legal profession. So very much looking forward to having the three of you on the panel with Russ today and hearing what kind of advances we have that are shaping the legal profession. So some of the topics that will be covered today as part of this presentation will be an introduction to AI for anyone who wasn't able to tune into the last programs, just doing a quick recap of that. We'll also be discussing document preparation, marketing, legal research, risk management. We'll also be discussing the rules of professional conduct, new advances in AI, and a look ahead. And as always, we'll have a question and answer section. So we will be taking questions throughout the program. But in addition to that, we'll also have a dedicated Q&A segment at the end. So we have received quite a few questions already, but please feel free to send them in as well. You can send those in through the Q&A. And we encourage you all to do so. And we'll get through as many questions as we can throughout the presentation. But first of all, so I am going to do some introductions of our panelists today, but we would like to know who's in the audience with us today, just to give us an idea of who's joining and who's tuning in. So if you'd just like to take a moment as I'm going through our introductions and share where you're joining us from today, what's your profession, and the reason for joining today. So I'll give you a few moments to answer that. And while you do, I'm going to take a moment to introduce our speakers. So first up, we have Billie Tarascio, who is the founder of Modern Law, a firm based in Mesa, Arizona, where she has been pushing the boundaries for how to build a successful law practice since 2008. She is also the creator of Access Legal, a cloud-based document automation software for clients to help them create their own forms and filings, ostensibly with the coaching help of an attorney or paralegal. Still, clients are not always comfortable creating legal documents, but technology continued to drive the bottom line in her firm, where she developed techniques to tweak results that she's been sharing with other lawyers around the country. Through her experiences and driven by metrics, Tarascio has developed the steps to create and assess changes to any law firm and drive measurable increases in company profits, which ultimately serves clients with better service. Thanks for joining us today, Billie.
Thank you.
Next, we have
That's a
Jerry
great
Zhou.
picture, Billie.
Thanks.
Yeah, it looks very dark and mysterious.
Next, we have Jerry Zhou, who is the co-founder and chief executive officer of Supio software and is also a software industry veteran. Along with his co-founder, Kyle, they started their first software business right out of college in 2009. Capitalizing on an emerging mobile gaming industry, they published games on the iOS App Store that resulted in millions of players worldwide. In 2014, they joined a top Seattle startup, Avalera, and led the development of new tax accounting software that helped take the company IPO. Thanks for joining us today, Jerry, as well.
Thank you.
Next, we have Luv Bakshi, who is an IT industry veteran with over 14 years of experience. Since 2021, he has excelled as a senior tech at Ideological, showcasing his expertise and dedication. Luv is passionate about technology and is committed to excellence. He plays a crucial role in creating new proactive security infrastructures that help protect small to medium-sized businesses, making him a trusted and invaluable professional in his field. Looking forward to hearing from you as well today, Luv.
Thank you.
And last but not least, we have Russell, who is the founder and senior partner at our firm. With over 25 years of experience, he uses his knowledge and expertise to serve his clients in all aspects of family law. He uses his experience to create unique solutions for each client to enable them and their families to move forward and supports them through the transition of divorce and separation. Russell has also written 4 books and is a fully trained collaborative practice lawyer. He speaks at conferences on collaborative practice, marketing, technology, and the law. So I will now pass things over to you, Russ, to get started with the presentation.
Thank you for those kind words. Shannon, let's see what our poll results are. And we're going to go back to back with polls. We're going to do another poll real quick because we love hearing from our audience. So today, 45% of our audience are lawyers, lawyer from a different field, 33%. Financial professional, law clerk, professional in another field. So thank you for joining us today. And we've got a second poll that we're going to run, which is how familiar, sorry, are you with AI? So we'll just sort of gauge our audience and find out everybody's level of comfort with AI. Please give us your feedback at the end of this program. We love hearing your comments in terms of how we can improve our program. There's a chat feature. You can put your questions into that or into the Q&A box. And we're going to try to answer as many questions as we can throughout today's program. We've also allotted some time for Q&A at the end. So let us know what you're thinking. Any questions that you have, you certainly have lots of expertise to join you today. And let's see the results of our second poll. Vary, 8%, somewhat, 52%, not at all. So pretty much split crowd. Thank you for participating. Jerry, I'm going to start off with you and ask you all the hard questions. What is AI? Give us a bit of an intro for people who are new to this idea and how, we'll tie it into the legal profession throughout the program. But first of all, what's AI?
Yeah, I'll give a broad overview and go a little bit deeper, but in general, AI is a new type of computing that is a little bit different than traditional processes in a way that a lot of it is based on probability. So, we've seen a lot of AI before this new era of generative AI. Some great examples of this would be being able to use Google search, right? You're not always clear what the results are going to be when you go find it, or maybe you get an alert from your credit card company saying that there was a transaction that didn't was suspicious. That's another example of something that's not deterministic, as in you don't really understand which credit card transactions are going to happen, but it's something that the system is predictive. And then really recently, a great example of this is what we call generative AI. In fact, I believe that 80% of all venture funding in the last year has been toward this space. And what's interesting about generative AI is that they were able to break down data into fundamental blocks and be able to predict the next piece of data in the digital world. So that means everything from pictures to videos, and more importantly, for lawyers, that means for words. So every single time you chat with a chatbot like ChatGPT, it's basically able to predict the next sequence of words based on the sequence of words that you were able to put in yourself, which is amazing for handling these types of language-based tasks, but also the emphasis is that it's not 100% precise, and it's always going to try to predict what you want.
All right, so let's talk about document preparation. That sort of, seems to be an area that's assisting lawyers a lot who are starting to look at AI. Billie, I know you've experimented a little bit. Tell us a little bit about document preparation. What's been your experience?
So yeah, I've been playing with document automation and document generation for a long, long time, and it never really worked that well. I'm just going to be very real with you all. Never really worked that well. It was very difficult to update the forms, and it was a plug and play, right? You get the data and you plug it into the documents. But under the new AI model, it should be able to generate documents with direction so that you can add nuance. Like you can say to the system, here's a petition for dissolution. I'd like you to make me a petition for dissolution, but change these things and conceptually, and then have it create documents. I don't think that AI is quite there yet. So we are using Supio, which is Jerry's company, for some document generation in the law firm. But I don't think full legal document generation is there yet with AI.
Yeah, we're having a lot of success with our intake forms and using AI to process information. So traditionally, most traditional lawyer consultations, we would meet with the client, then we would get the background information, date of marriage, date of separation, kids' ages, assets, all the bits and pieces that we need to know about. That would take me 25, 30 minutes at least, just to get that initial information. So we're finding the AI, we use Supio for our AI document forms, and it's super efficient. So we're that 25 minutes is now down to a 3-4 page form. All that information I have before I meet with the client. So that's time I'm capturing, and I can spend, the client will come in, I'll clarify some details, find out what their goals and interests are, and then start giving them tailored legal advice. So it really makes for a much more meaningful consultation. The other thing we were finding traditionally, clients would come in, they wouldn't bring their court order, or they wouldn't bring their separation agreement, or they're missing information. The automated forms flags all that. So my law clerk can call the client ahead of time, say, we need that separation agreement. We're going to review it before you even come in, because I know that's a document I'm going to need to see to give some legal advice. Otherwise, we have to kick the consultation order over and have the client come back for a second meeting. So that's very effective. Applications have been effective. We can train AI to draft. We have a number of lawyers at my firm. So draft an application or an offer in the style of this particular lawyer. Everybody has their own voice. So a lot of the kickback I got from my staff, I want to draft it because that's the way I think through it. Secondly, I want the document to have my voice. And so, AI is very good about teaching it. I'm finding the financial briefs are very good at organizing information, and you can use AI to assemble a financial brief with links to the source documents. And the other thing we're starting to use it for is final court orders. This is sort of a pain point our staff had. It might take 3-4 months for a court order to come in. And when it does, we may have final billed the client, and now we have to send a report. There's some money in trust. So it's one of those things that nobody wants to get on right away. But we can take the order, put it into a final report. AI will do the initial draft and clean it up. So I agree with you, Billy. There's lots of room to improve, and it's still kind of chunky right now. But we're starting to see some of the ways it can be efficient. Jerry, do you want to talk a little bit AI and document preparation?
Yeah, I agree with both of you. I think the challenge with traditional document preparation is that it's going to be really good at populating really deterministic things like forms. And really the time savings there is you input data once and it populates like 5 forms for you versus you having to do it one by one. But then it comes with its own slew of problems like maintaining those forms, being able to gather the data, being able to generate those. So if you break down where AI is helpful, on the front end of things, you're going to be able to gather that data a lot easier. Part of that is actually directly from the documents themselves. So if you use a language model like Supio does and you give it a bank statement, then you're going to understand and break down those balances and the numbers from that bank statement. So now you can use that inside like a financial affidavit or information like that. So that guarantees a little bit more accuracy. You're going to have more structure around that with like the citations and things like that. On the other side, which is what Billy was referring to, being able to put some color into a document and customizing it, that's a lot more of a challenge because currently, if you just ask a generative AI system to generate a document, the chances of it being so accurate as to what you want is difficult. So what we've been innovating on is being able to create templates where certain parts of this template are parts that you can inject more color and story into, and other parts are still static within, like, let's say the forms that Ontario uses. And that's what we're really excited to partner with different firms to release in the next few months.
Now, Jerry and I are family lawyers. I understand you're also creating some custom forms for AI or PI lawyers, personal injury lawyers.
That's right. So with personal injury lawyers, it's fascinating because the majority of data that they're dealing with is medical data. So, when you look at their processes for interaction, a lot of that is around like demand letter generation and like the different types of trial that's happening. So, in general, the processes and concepts are actually exactly the same. And that's kind of where we're trying to standardize a lot of this.
So in terms of adoption, are you finding personal injury lawyers are using AI more than family lawyers, or what's the balance that you're seeing in terms of as a software provider or an AI provider, you're seeing the industry move in?
It's interesting because with personal injury lawyers, they have a different financial model than the family lawyers in that they're contingent fee based. So they're a lot more incentivized to adopt technology faster. I think with family law, one of the challenges with technology adoption is that you actually have to innovate on a business model along with that to be able to compensate. I think the other thing about personal injury is that it's not as math heavy as it is
Yeah.
with family law. So a lot of the technology which just works outside the box versus having to pre-process a lot of the math and calculations for family law.
So sort of what you're saying is, we have the personal injury lawyers mainly operating on a contingency fee basis. So it's easier for them to recover on the efficiencies. But the family lawyers are billing at an hourly rate. And now we got to figure out, okay, we drafted this application, which would take 3 hours and 6 minutes. How are we going to bill the client?
Yes, exactly. And I think there are family lawyers, especially our partners like you and Billy, that have been really creative and innovative on this space, but it's definitely not something that the industry has embraced completely yet.
Yeah, I think we'll probably be seeing some family lawyers move towards block fees, but I'm not, that would make sense. You're still providing the same service. You're just agreeing on what's going to be paid, what you're going to pay to get that court application done. What's your view on this discussion, Billy? Where do you see it going?
So for us, we implemented the technology of Supio. We used it in a very specific area, which was gathering disclosures and creation of disclosure statements. We didn't change anything at all in our fee agreement for about the first, 6 months or something as we experimented with it. And then as we got really comfortable with it, we decided how to do that. And so we grappled with the language, we updated our fee agreement, and our fee agreement now says something like, as the firm experiments with technology, in order to save you money, there are certain things that we will be capturing as a flat fee normally. And then we use data. A typical disclosure statement would have cost you X under this model, but now moving forward, we will charge a flat fee of, I think it's $250 for every disclosure statement. That's it. I framed it as a real win-win.
Yeah, that's a win-win, right? Because you're making your services more efficient and the client's probably paying less.
And I'll tell you, I got 0 comments on the change.
Yeah.
0.
And that's probably a big fear, right? What are the clients? Are they going to
Right.
push back? Are they
Right.
going to say what's going on? Or I want to be saving the money. Why are you changing the fees?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, let's see what our audience thinks. So we're going to go to our next poll. Does your firm or legal department currently use any AI tools? And see what our audience is thinking in terms of, or where they're at with respect to the use of AI. Maybe I'll ask one of the audience questions that came in. Billy, how useful is AI to the legal profession? What are you predicting here?
I think it will be really useful, but I don't think it's going to be quick or immediate. I think adoption of lawyers generally takes a long time. Tech development also takes a long time. AI has been around for many years, and we just hit this big, huge improvement recently. And it's going to take time before there's another big, huge improvement. That's my view. It's a rather, I don't know. I don't think it's going to blow up the world.
Yeah. Well, it took us 200 years to move away from paper, right? And a pandemic for some lawyers. So yeah, it could
I
be.
want to know, how are you charging for your AI within your fee agreement?
Right. Well, what we try to do is we try to estimate how long this document's going to take. And we're still working through the appropriate, the block fees are the easy part, right? We know the value of this financial statement is X number of dollars. For my team, we got to decide, okay, how are we going to divide that $750 up between the lawyer and the law clerk and the person who owns the law firm? Because the clerks do a lot of the admin data processing side. The lawyers do the review to make sure everything's correct. So, you want to make sure your team's properly compensated, especially if your clerks are on a bonus system based on, how much work they generate. So we're still, that's growing pains with new technology. We're still getting through it, but the back end of it is more difficult. The front end, I think clients know that, if you're doing a real estate deal, for example, they're going to pay a block fee. So their block fees are normal for clients. It's just how you divide the fee when it comes into the firm. If you have people who are being compensated for the work they produce. We haven't cracked that, not yet, though.
Yeah.
We're working on it.
Yeah, that's not an easy one at all.
Yeah. And then you're also managing change, right? In everybody's fears. We're going to talk about this in a little bit, but people don't like it when you change processes or systems or introduce new software. When we pivoted to paperless pre-pandemic, I still had lawyers and law clerks who were hiding paper files in their office. Like they're holding on to the files. They weren't going to let it go. And it's just, they've been doing it for 20 years and it's hard to start a new habit. Let's see what our audience is thinking. All right. So are you currently using it? 27%. Yes, that'd be interesting. Put into the Q&A box what you're using it for. Majority is no. And 10% is not sure. Yeah, you may be using it, with Clio or DivorceMate or Cosmlex and not even know it, depending on what software you have. So interesting. Thank you for participating in the poll. All right, so marketing. This is I think this is AI offers a lot of great opportunities to market your practice. Billie, what are you doing?
A lot in marketing. Probably we're using it more in marketing than we are on the operations side.
Yeah.
And the technology is ready right now to help your marketing in so many ways. We have had a podcast for years, but now we can take the transcripts from a meeting that we have or a podcast and put it into ChatGPT and get 10 blogs and an infographic. So it just makes content generation so easy using your own stuff.
Yeah.
So like we have attorney meetings and part of the attorney meetings are an educational component and that, transcript comes out of Zoom or Zoom AI does a lot with the information in the meetings. And then you can create topical blogs or emails to your clients. Or social media posts. There's just so many.
Yeah, it's almost, your ability to produce content now is unlimited. All right. I'm just looking at our list. Social media, you're a social media star. You're using it for that, right?
Absolutely.
Don't be humble. You've got a really good following.
Thanks, Russ.
And well, how much of your work would you say comes from social media?
I should know this off the top of my head, but I don't. I would guess it's around 40%, 30 to 40%.
And that's just low hanging fruit, right? You're
Yeah.
producing, you're not buying Google ads or pay-per-click ads or full page newspaper ads. You're just talking about things you're passionate about. So, so social media is huge for AI. We use it to generate images. So we wrote an article about our Prime Minister separation, Justin Trudeau, and we needed an image to go with the article. And my marketing director had AI generate several images, Justin Trudeau with women that were not his wife. I said, well, see if it'll produce one with him and his wife. And it did. So we had an AI generated image that wasn't copyrighted that we could use with our content. And it was free. And it only took moments. Video is a very effective way. We have avatars now that we use. So I can take my script, put it into AI, and it'll generate a video of me talking about that content and adding all the bits and pieces. It's not perfect. You can still tell it's an avatar, but you can see with the technology developing, and now that you won't be able to tell the difference. I'm seeing images, these tests where they say, they test, is this an AI generated image? And it's hard to tell sometimes, right? And I think video is going to get to that point. Chat bots have been in place for a number of years, and they're just getting better. So if somebody contacts your law firm after hours, they can engage in a chat bot and get a lot of information about your practice, your hours, when to set an appointment. Just using AI. There's no live person on the other end. Hashtags is another one. Create hashtags for your social media, marketing calendars. Like Billy said, one piece of content you can now use in 8 different platforms over and over again, just using AI to modify it for whatever platform. So I find it's been very effective. Love, are you using AI at all with your business?
Yes, for sure. So we actually we recently brought on a tool which is used to onboard and offboard clients as a whole in terms of their users and their and whatever data they have, desktops, laptops, and everything. So onboard them with just one click. It's really a game changer for us in recent times. We had to spend about somewhere nearing 24 to 48 man hours to even onboard a client or work on something or even just offboard them. Now with the recent acquire of the tool, we programmed it in a way, and the tool auto predicts that, okay, this many users, this is that. It auto selects the tools that you just feed into it. It auto selects everything, and it just blasts out. And that's it. And we did a rollout for this probably last week, and that was the first initial rollout, the official rollout. It took us less than 4 hours to onboard everything and have everything on our console, and it actually started to work right in 4 hours. Yeah. And we saved somewhere around, I think, 40 hours just by using AI, and that's it.
Incredible. Jerry, are you using AI with respect to marketing at all, or offering services?
We use AI probably everywhere, right? Like we deal with it every day. So everything from our software engineers using it to generate and debug code to our marketing team, not only using it for being able to generate content, but also just strategizing, understanding about the market, right? Like just being able to dig deep into any specific segment of how to operate in family law in a specific area, or being able to interact with partners. It's definitely a game changer in terms of how fast information can come.
Yeah, I agree. We did have a question come in. PC law, divorce made, any other software using AI? I would contact your sales rep and ask them specifically what AI is being used to generate your software. And lots of times they have widgets, and that you usually have to pay for it. I know we're going to talk about Slack. They have an AI feature that you have to pay for as well. So talk to your sales rep. Let's talk a little bit about legal research. I'll just talk about my experience. My associates are super anxious about AI. We see these cases like Avianca Air coming out of the US, where the lawyer produced a factum or court document generated by AI, referenced several cases that were fake. There were fake cases within that fake case as well, and opposing counsel could not locate it. Neither could the judge. Needless to say, that lawyer's reputation was significantly damaged and had to pay some cost consequences. And the press that firm got was all over North America and parts of Europe. So lawyers inherently don't want to make a mistake. They don't want to embarrass themselves. They want to make sure they do the best they can for their client, limit their liability. And Avianca Air just blows all that up. And now they're super hesitant about anything regarding AI. Rightfully so, because we want to make sure we're providing the court with proper information, with precedents that are real, with arguments that are consistent with the legislation. So we're seeing a bit of kickback from the courts, especially in the US. where judges are requiring lawyers to certify whether their documents were generated by AI. And there's been some lawyers in Canada that have been reported to be using AI and with unreliable results, and they've been sanctioned as well. So I haven't been subject to required to provide certification yet to any of my court documents, but it's a bit of a slippery slope. How far do you go, right? If you take Google Maps to get to the courthouse, which is AI, do you include that in your certification? It would be endless, you know. But Billy, what are you seeing in terms of research and this kickback we're seeing from the legal profession and what judges in the US and courts in the US are doing about AI?
So there have been no rules or statements in my jurisdiction about lawyers' use of AI. To me, it's fairly obvious as a lawyer that you are responsible for checking the work that comes to you from AI. And you should be using every available tool to be the best lawyer you possibly can in as little time as possible. I have used some legal research platforms that have claimed that are AI based, and they're not ready. I signed up for one. I moved off of my traditional and went all in on this new AI one. It was not ready. So I think it'll get there. I just don't think the product is that good right now.
Yeah. I know, well, Westlaw, I think, offers AI generated results, but I guess my view is I'm not going to rely on ChatGPT or an open-ended AI model to produce a factum for me or give me some case law in Ontario.
Right.
We're always going to double check it. So right now, legal research with AI, I think, is unreliable. At least that's been my experience. And it may get there, but it's just not there yet. Jerry, have you got any views about the legal research side of AI?
Quite a bit. We can just keep it short, I think, on my views. One thing I'll add is you can think about the ability of using AI to do this work kind of like when the internet was invented, right? Like everyone's still learning about the reliability. I think if someone just went on the internet and found random unreliable sources and put them in their legal documents, they would probably be chastised by the court as well. So we're really learning about how to become reliable as an industry, and that's difficult. On the legal research side, the challenge has been that the process for being able to fetch this data, which they call retrieval augmented generation, where they're essentially looking at a database to look at similar precedents and then taking it out, it's really undeterministic. It's really random to try to go do that. So the result is that 1 in 5 or 1 in 6 queries end up hallucinating. And that's just something that they have to conquer to create more reliability, but also something that you can fix by just really forcing users to have to validate it. I think there's enough value to get a quick response, but people really have to be trained to understand how to use the tool.
It sounds kind of fun, an afternoon hallucinating. Tell us, I know we hear that phrase a lot when it comes to AI. Tell us what that means and what's AI doing when we're saying it's hallucinating.
Well, so like from the perspective of the AI, which is a weird concept, it doesn't know it's hallucinating, right? Like we talked about earlier, it's really just a machine that's probabilistically generating every single word. From our perspective, we have answers that we want it to provide what we call truth, which obviously it doesn't know as well. So anytime it generates words that are not truthful, but it makes it sound like it's truthful, we call that a hallucination. So, and then when you're trying to perform certain tasks, like, hey, go read this precedent and give me a summary of this thing, and it's really bad at perhaps giving you the date or the sequence of events, and it mixes it up. The problem or the challenge with AI is that it's so good at forming sentences that it still states it in a really confident way. And that's how these hallucinations are formed.
Yeah. Well, so we want to be mindful of that for sure. Next thing we want to also look at is risk management. Obviously, lawyers have a duty under our rules of professional responsibility. But Luv, what are you seeing with respect to risk management and AI at your end?
Yeah, so I would try to keep it brief. So let me see how that goes. I'm not very good at doing that though.
No, just take your time. Tell us what we need to know. This is an important subject.
Yeah, sure. So as we take on the point of risk management, so the thing is that AI integrations, if I say AI integrates, as of now, AI integrates into almost everything that we use. Every tool, every software, there is some sort of integration with AI. And it looks good at the front end if we see to it, like how the user experience goes with it. It's easy to search things, it's easy to get your tasks done. It's so funny, like you just say a command and it gets generated, your forms get filled, everything looks so good there on client management and data sorting. It's actually what you have to be aware of is in the back end of how it works. And what are the codes there, how the back end actually integrates into the software. That's very important. So it's very important to choose a reliable AI tool that you have, or your tool should have a reliable model on which it works. Because the most important thing for in legal profession, obviously, is that if you have a law firm, the data integrity that you have, and it should be protected. You have client data. If we enter something and it hits to a breach point, then that becomes that is the responsibility of the legal firm itself, and which is a problem for them going forward. So I would say that one of the most important ways on how more secure, I would say, on how the AI integrates into any tool would be one of the way that we see is an API integration. But it's always important that you should secure the access of that API in a way to the software or the AI to a software where it doesn't go beyond the border of information that you actually want to feed it. That means you only provide that information with the need and not just go over and beyond that in terms of that. And we should always have necessary controls in terms of the tools that we use so that the tools only have access to what we feed them and not anything over and beyond that as well. It's anything that's, I would say if a tool has AI or even if it doesn't, but it's not properly implemented and it's not properly secured, it would inadvertently, I think, would cause data loss for sure, or client breach for sure. So it's very important to have those tools and those policies in place for any tools that you use across, whether they're AI based or not. And I would say a few mitigation techniques for that would be to have strong authentication policies that you have and make sure that and restrict the access to data, whatever you have to feed into that. I would say you can use make sure that they have all the compliance. They're always compliant with the compliance that you use, and all those policies are in place for that. And I think those, if you cover your bases, if the tools cover their bases on that end, I think then we should be able to be at a good place for that. And that would be some advice.
That's helpful. Thank you, Luv. So risk management. Jerry, can you talk about the difference between an open and closed system? Obviously, Billy and I are concerned about our clients' privacy and protecting their data. And we got a duty of confidentiality. What safeguards are being put in place for lawyers who use AI to ensure that the integrity of their clients' data and the privacy is maintained?
So first off, like people should not be putting their data into the consumer versions of OpenAI, even if you just read the disclaimer right on the bottom, it says that we'll take your data and train our models on that. So that would be what we would consider a open system. And their business model is that they have tons of users that use it for their basic consumer tasks, maybe writing like
I just stop you there. So I know half of the people I know use ChatGPT, 3.5. Now there's the 4, the more expensive one. Those are open systems, right?
Yes, they are.
That's danger. You don't be using that to produce your clients' documents.
You can use it to ask a question, right? Like to ask about something
A
and ask them.
generic question, right? But
Yes,
don't
generic.
put your client's data in there.
Yeah, if you put your client's data in there, then you're essentially giving open AI free reign to use that data to train their models. That's going to be what these open systems are about. With closed systems, what companies like us do is we basically use the same types of foundation models, but our licensing agreements with these models and the way we host them are in our own Azure data centers or some types like that. And that makes it so that it's securely within our firewalls. And when we do that, the data now is not being used to train these foundation models or update anything. And that's one of the key parts of where security happens.
Yeah.
Right.
Billy, thoughts on security?
Yeah, so we have a policy that you can't put any client data specifically into ChatGPT. But we still use ChatGPT a lot for things like, we can tell ChatGPT, I have a deposition tomorrow. Here are the issues. Generate some questions for me. And it
Mhm.
just helps people get unstuck to just have examples in front of them. So that's fine because you're not putting in any specific client data. So we just do a lot of training on what is and isn't okay and different practical uses of the AI that exists today.
Yeah. I find it's really great at blind spot detection. So I'll say, I've got this argument. What issues am I overlooking, or what is opposing counsel going to argue? It usually comes up with 2 or 3 things I didn't think about, which
Oh,
is
that's a great idea.
super helpful, right? And then you acknowledge those points in your submissions even before counsel has a chance to get a kick at the can. So really important, risk management, want to be mindful of that. Let's go to our audience. Thank you everybody for these questions. They've been fantastic in your feedback so far. So our next poll, what is your biggest concern about the integration of AI into the legal profession? I just tell a bit of a story here. We'll give everybody a minute or 2 to answer. We have a scholarship fund that we issue every year to students graduating from high school. Part of the process is an application, reference letters, transcripts, and they have to write an essay on a particular topic, and we give them some ideas of what they can write on. Last year, 60% of our essays were AI generated, the exact same, word for word. It was unbelievable. This year wasn't as bad. We've got 190 applications, but I'm wondering, has AI improved? And I'm just not seeing it. And some of them were sloppy, right? It actually says Chat GPT at the front end of their, but other ones I thought, same themes, very similar language, but I'm thinking AI has probably improved since the previous year and it's becoming a little bit more tailored. But there's some AI generated documents. You read it, okay, this is definitely not produced by a lawyer, right? It was produced by AI. Are you seeing that at your end, Billy?
We don't have a scholarship application, so
Or
no.
even documents you've got coming in?
Not really. Emails. You can tell when you're getting emails from people and you're like, nobody talks like that. Just stop it. That's where I see it mostly.
Yeah. I forgot about it. And it'll also do responses to your Google reviews, which are effective as well.
And those are pretty good. Those are pretty acceptable.
Yeah.
Because they keep it short. It's the too many words that really gives it away.
That's right. Or when it has the heading conclusion at the bottom.
Right.
Okay. Nobody's going to write conclusion in an email, right?
No.
Or a document, but all right, let's see what our audience is thinking. Biggest concern. Job displacement, 17%. Ethical implications, 8%. Data privacy, I'm surprised that wasn't higher than 14%. Accuracy and reliability is sort of a theme we're seeing today. That's clearly the majority, 53%. Cost of implementation, 5%. And other, you can just put it in the Q&A or the chat box what the other was. So thank you. let's talk about it. So, rules of professional conduct. Lawyers are governed by a set of rules. What do you think, Billy?
Can I tell you a story?
Yeah, we love the
Okay.
stories.
Okay, here's my story. So
I
my
tell the story. It's story time. Come on.
my favorite moment where ChatGPT bailed me out. It's an evening, I'm at home, I've got 4 kids, they're here. I'm in my hot tub, and on Slack, I'm getting messages, mayday, mayday, potential conflict. And this person, this lawyer says, I have an order of protection hearing tomorrow morning. And we just found out that the opposing party consulted with one of our lawyers at pro bono day. Didn't hire, but consulted. And what do we do? I've been hired to represent this person for tomorrow. And the conflicts rules are complicated. You've got specific rules for potential clients, for actual clients, for the types of matters. And so I put this into ChatGPT because there was a lot going on. I think I had a glass of wine again. Like I wasn't like in my lawyer mind when I got my 8-year-old chatting with me in the hot tub, and I'm like, ah. So I go to ChatGPT, I put in the scenario, and it knows the conflicts rules because they're fairly uniform. And it told me, like, this is a conflict, here's what you do, you can't, it is waivable. Like, and then I had to figure out, like, how did this happen? And it happened because a current client said, I want to add an order of protection to a family law matter. No problem. We opened it. We'd already conflict checked for the family law matter, but the order of protection happened to be against an ex-girlfriend of the somebody. So the system, whenever things fall apart, it always unveils a hole in your processes, which is great. We love that. But it allowed me to tell my new lawyer, okay, here's what you do. You need to show up in the morning at this hearing, disclose the conflict, ask if the other side would like to waive the conflict, let them know that you've been screened, you know nothing about it. And then you go from there. You just see what happens. And they happened to settle it that morning, and then it went away. But it was very useful in that moment to be able to get some analysis that I wasn't really capable of doing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great story. In terms of the rules of professional conduct, there's probably at least a dozen or more that apply to the use of AI. So whatever jurisdiction you practice in, you're going to want to look at your governing body. For in Ontario, it's the Law Society of Ontario, and the rules of professional conduct. Number one, confidentiality. That always comes up. So you want to make sure that you're maintaining your client's confidentiality. We actually had a question that came in, and I'm going to throw this one at you, Jerry. Do closed-ended AI tools use the entered information to train the AI model while keeping the data confidential?
It really depends on the company, and you have to really examine their data policies and privacy agreements. So a lot of companies, such as ours, we will look at the questions you're asking and try to understand why is the response not great. And based on that, we will tune the models to help you answer that. But when we do handle your data, everything is anonymized, and it's less so about training as much more about just understanding the nature of the types of questions that people are asking. So this is more of a collaborative process as this industry is evolving.
Yeah, I think I'd also ask, where is the data being stored, right? What country is it being stored at? If it's in Canada, are you using servers in Canada, or are you using servers in the US? Because then your client's data is going to be subject to US laws and vice versa, right? If you're an American lawyer.
But this is no different than where are you storing your documents, or
right.
what practice management system are you using? Like when we input our lawyers or our clients' names and date of births into Clio or whatever, HubSpot or Infusionsoft, we are sharing their data. So
Yeah.
to me, I don't know that this is so different than any other analysis or any other software we use.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Especially if your software is cloud-based, right? They're storing it for you somewhere. Might be an idea to ask where they're storing it. That's all I'm saying. And it probably would be in your service agreement. The other obviously the rule in Ontario is we have a duty to provide efficient legal services, be up to date with technology. So I think there'll be a tipping point where if you're not using AI, you may not be providing efficient services and could be in breach of your professional obligations because you're doing it the old way when you could save the client 4 hours on that document. I'm not quite there yet, but I think we're going in that direction. Candor to the tribunal or the court that you're appearing before. So we've talked about Avianca Air and faulty research and hallucinating AI. You've got a duty as an officer of the court to make sure that you're providing the court with current and accurate information. The big one, well, that kind of ties in also in terms of efficiency. We need to be honest with our clients about our fees and how much time. You can't spend 6 minutes generating a document and bill the 3 hours. You're going to need to have a discussion with the client. How am I going to bill for these services if I'm using these tools? Probably the most important one we're seeing is supervision. We have a duty to supervise our staff and our law clerks and our associate lawyers. And if they're using AI, we have a duty to supervise that they're doing it properly and ask questions. They may be using it and you don't know they're using it. So like Billy said, develop a policy around AI use and reporting. So those are some things that jump off the page. To me, anything else you want to add about rules of professional conduct, Billy?
We have a comment in the rules of professional conduct model rules that requires tech competence.
Yeah.
Specifically. So just to build on that efficiency, when lawyers are so risk adverse that our general first instinct is don't do it, it's dangerous, but our duty is actually to learn it and then determine if it's dangerous.
Yeah. And little saying it's always bantered about, you're not going to lose your job to AI. You'll be replaced by somebody using AI, right? That's sort of a theme that we see when it comes to AI discussions. Let's go back to our audience for another poll question. It's been a while, and this has been a great discussion. Thank you, everybody. So next poll question, how do you see AI transforming the legal profession in the next 5 years? So we've got a lot of lawyers in our audience and people involved in the legal industry. It'll be interesting to see what our audience thinks about this question. And then next, we're going to go into, we'll give everybody a moment to answer this. Our next topic is going to be new advances in AI. Lots happening. I know I mentioned briefly, Slack has now got AI generated option. We signed up for it. We haven't fully used it, but we use Slack as one of our main communication channels with our firm, including tips and tricks, practice directions, procedures at courthouses. So if we've had that discussion already, the AI can find that discussion and answer those questions quite quickly. So we're a slightly larger firm, lots of resources, lots of people sharing tips and tricks. But let's see what our audience is thinking about this question. Transforming the legal profession. Dramatic change, 39%. Moderate change, 54%. Minimal impact, 70%. So over 90% think something's coming, the train's coming down the track here, and we're not too sure if it's a runaway train or if it's going to come in nice and smoothly to the station. Who knows? New advances, Jerry, what can we look forward to?
There's a lot of exciting stuff coming out. I think when we think about things that, for example, there's a lot of new multimodal advances. And the word multimodal means that now not only can you speak to it using words, you can talk to it, you can go and ask it to generate images for you, videos. And it's also the reverse, where it can process images and process videos and give you an analysis, for example, of what it's looking at, right? So when you go and basically synthesize all of this, it's becoming the senses of a human, so to speak, and then it's a way for you to interact with the rest of the computer. So that's super exciting. I think from the legal perspective in general, there's companies like Supio that are really looking at how to put boundaries to your experience so that when you are asking questions or when you're trying to generate a document, it's constrained in a way where you're going to just be able to get a really accurate and reliable result versus just a generic chat experience where you're asking to generate entire blobs and having to navigate that type of navigation. I think that probably the most important advance of all is really around the context windows of how much data these things can process. When we started playing around with these models, maybe about 2.5, 3 years ago, there were these models called bidirectional encoders made by Google, which basically allowed you to have about 500 words in memory. If you guys remember back in the day when we maybe like using calculators or cell phones, they used to have like 1 MB of memory. And now you're talking about, 32 GB or, a terabyte or something crazy like that. Language models are really similar to that. They only have very, very small amount of memory because it's a new type of computing. And as we evolve, they're going to be able to handle, thousands of pages, tens of thousands of pages of data, and potentially one day your entire hard drive.
Yeah, yeah. And I think we're probably going to be seeing more advanced deepfakes.
Uh-huh.
These scams that we're seeing, or even court documents, right? People generating text message strings saying this is a conversation I had with my spouse, and look how terrible he is. He shouldn't be seeing his children. So we really need to be alert to deep fakes, and AI makes it so easy for people to generate this. But new advances, Billy, what are you seeing on your end?
Nothing other than, what you said.
Yeah, yeah. I think the avatars are going to be really developing. This may sound kind of Blade Runner-ish, but I was at a marketing conference. They're talking about neural linguistics and marketing, and basically they can read your face and your expressions and decide that they'll know what you're deciding before you decide it. So you'll be at a sign with a menu on it that has images, and if you're not reacting well, they'll quickly change the menu to the other images, and it'll slow it down if you're reacting well with the images. So you haven't even made the decision yet, but the technology knows by your facial reaction and your cues and your body language what you want or what you want to purchase, right? So that may eventually start tying into legal services, but it's down the road, but it's something new. All right, so let's bring this train into the station. A look ahead, we'll do sort of a summary, and then maybe do a little bit more Q&A. So Luv, you want to start off? What are you seeing happening with all this technology?
Well, for sure, I do see that how AI is advancing it can do wonders. Honestly, like it can really do wonders. And true about that, actually, Russ, that it can actually see your face and print the menu for you, then say that this is what you're going to order. So something like that would be coming for sure. So yes, so it is doing that. I just see that it's just, again, piggybacking on Billy, that it's just not there for a few things, for a few tools, I would say, and for a few things, right? As for the IT professional point of view, AI has been great for us in terms of mitigating a lot of risks for our clients in terms of SOC and SIEM. We have tools that auto predict what's going to be the nature of files, or what this tool can do and what not. It helps us assessing and mitigating risks, stopping any malwares and viruses going over and beyond in the network. So it actually helps us a lot. It predicts every hash value of everything, of all the keystrokes until then as well, to make sure that it is not it is an actual user who's typing it, or it is an actual keyword that you're actually putting it in. So for us, it goes over and beyond, and we do see a lot more coming our way.
All right, Jerry, what do you think? Predictions? Look at
The big ones I think are going to be really around all of the places where you store your data are going to give you a lot easier access to that data without necessarily having to dig through to find the information. So you'll see this with practice management software where you can look for fields and ask questions, and maybe it'll be able to find you a matter to your emails. Where I find the email one to be interesting because I'm always in my email, but I'd love to be able to just talk to my email and then it can grab like pieces of data from 5 places and give me a synthesized answer. And it's the same probably for like your Dropbox or OneDrive. Just these different areas where it's text dense and answers now can be a little bit more cohesive and contextualized to what you're looking for.
Yeah, yeah. Billy, when we were preparing for this, I'm surprised we haven't had this discussion yet, but we have all these objections to AI from the legal industry. But we've heard this conversation, right? We've had this conversation 8, 10 years ago, didn't we?
Yeah, that's one thing that really jumped out to me. Because I got licensed to practice law in 2005. So cloud software was just coming, like Clio started about that same time. And we were Mac based, and all the software for lawyers was not Mac based. So we immediately had to and wanted to work in the cloud. And so because we were early adopters, I was doing a lot of speaking, and there was so much argument against putting your stuff in the cloud.
Yeah.
And it was the exact same conversation we're having now.
So
What about
what were the-
confidentiality? What about security? It's just the same.
Well, losing your job, right? All the objections we're seeing now, 5 or 6 big ones, is almost word for word the same as 10 years ago, right?
It is. It's the same discussion. And so with that perspective, like the sky is not falling. Our current rules do address this. It does. And we're going to be okay.
Yeah. And look, most people use the cloud now. Probably what, 90% of our software, maybe even more. Would you say, Billy, is cloud-based?
Right. And it's more secure. It's more secure than having files in your office. But I remember a very prominent ethics attorney and speaker who flat out said lawyers can't use Dropbox, lawyers can't use Gmail.
Yeah.
And it's just not true. Maybe you can't use the free version, but it's just not accurate to say you can't use X, Y, or Z. So if we just call on that analysis, you know what to do. You know you have to look at the terms of service. You know the analysis when you're deciding what to do with your firm.
Yeah, I think the cloud experience from 10 years ago just normalizes what we're going through.
Mhm.
Because some of the headlines we're seeing regarding AI, it's going to replace all the lawyers, it's going to kill everybody, it's going to take over the world. It makes for good headlines, but it's pretty dramatic, right? The cloud
Absolutely.
computing didn't wipe out the legal profession. It made us more efficient. It made our services more efficient. We can deliver documents easier. And I think we're going to start seeing that with AI, especially when we get some of the bugs out of the software. We start, nailing down the issue of privacy and make it a secure system and figure out a way to deal with the hallucinating AI. I think it's just going to take off. But anything else you want to add to that, Jerry?
I'll add that the biggest gap for companies like ours that are technology companies backed by venture is that we need help from practitioners like yourselves to help understand what the content is, the workflow is. I mean, there's a reason why you guys had to go to law school and work for, like decades in this area. It's so dense and complex. So building tooling for that actually helps you versus the really generic, like, here's a practice management system that lets you keep your time, right? These are kind of a dichotomy of very different places where we can help. So being able to collaborate with lawyers, understanding the problems, that's been key. And we hope that even for listener here, that you guys can reach out and we're happy to talk.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys. What a great discussion. We've got a few minutes left. We're going to do some Q&A, and we're going to hopefully have some show notes for our audience. So this has been fantastic. And let's take a look at what we have for Q&A. Oh, look who's back. Welcome back, Shannon. our
Thank
hostess.
you. And thank you so much to all of our panelists. That was very insightful, very exciting advances happening. We want to thank all of you for your participation as well, all of our audience members. We've received quite a few questions, so we'll get through as many as possible in the next 10 minutes that we have left here. So first question I have here from the audience is, have AI solutions been developed for document organization management? For example, creating a file brief.
Jerry, that sounds like a lob ball for you. What do you think?
Well, you guys should talk to us. We currently we process and can process up to thousands of documents to understand and classify each type, understand missing documents, and then able to generate briefs. So that's something that we've been able to do for the last year, and we have happy customers using it.
Yeah. We've used it. It used to take us, if it was a big trial, maybe 2-3 days to get the document briefs, old school prepared boxes of documents, bound with tabs, a set for the witness, a set for the court, a set for opposing counsel, a set for my client, and 5 volumes. So, the paper was incredible. But last spring during the trial sittings in Ontario, we have case lines and document management, so we can upload our documents electronically to the courts. So we were able to do that in a digital brief with hyperlinks to the documents. So that through 2-3 days of document prep, we got down to maybe half a day, which was a huge savings, not just to our client, but to the environment as well. We're not printing off 4,000 or 5,000 pages of photocopies and assembling them. So huge efficiencies there. Great question, Shannon. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Sorry, did you want to talk about document prep at all, Billie?
No,
Okay,
I thought you handled that well.
thank you.
All right, so next question we have is, have you experienced self-reps using AI, as I have in litigation, and sometimes the judge as well? The judge can't continue unless we have time to review it.
Yeah, Billie?
Definitely. I think that AI is a game changer for people representing themselves in the best way, especially as AI gets more and more reliable. But self-representing people now can make much better motions. Their AI is doing a better job articulating their position in many times than they would necessarily themselves. But in terms of the question of sometimes the judge and I can't continue because we haven't had time to review it. So in our state, you have to file those documents in advance. So you wouldn't just show up and hand documents. So we would have had the time to review it in advance.
Yeah, I think this is a double-edged sword. The self-rep isn't necessarily asking the right question.
Right.
So it's garbage in, garbage out. In Ontario, they may give me reference to parenting legislation in Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't help, right? They didn't ask the right question. I agree, Billie, it's a lot better than that they would have produced at home with pen and pencil talking to their neighbor.
Right.
But it's still inherently unreliable. I'm thinking, I agree, once the technology gets better, it's certainly going to level the playing field. We're going to get a lot of self-reps or super intelligent people who just don't want to spend the money on legal fees. And they're going to figure it out, which is great. We want people to have access to the justice system. The dark side of all this, I'm thinking we're probably going to see a lot more of the unauthorized practice of law. We're having third-party individuals who are not licensed paralegals or lawyers, maybe not even living in Canada or the United States. It could be overseas, providing legal services to people. So that creates a regulation issue. And, once the horse is out of the barn, it's going to be hard for governing bodies to regulate this, especially if the third party is overseas or not within our jurisdiction. So that's a real risk in terms of managing this technology and ensuring, the public is protected. And if they think they're getting licensed legal advice and they're not, how do we regulate that? And So, that's a bit of a danger in that.
Yeah, that is such a great point. We've had years and years of litigation against companies like LegalZoom from bar associations saying you're practicing law by providing forms. What does this look like? Who are the bar associations going to sue because the AI is generating legal argument? It's not just forms, it's legal argument. So do you think that bar associations are going to sue ChatGPT for unauthorized practice of law?
Well, enforcement's going to be an issue. But, our judges have the power and the duty to control the administration of justice and what happens in their courtrooms. So we may be seeing orders from the court dealing with unlicensed practice law. I remember story time, okay? Back in the day, I was in court and somebody wanted one of their friends to represent them who used to be a lawyer but wasn't a lawyer, wasn't disbarred, wasn't practicing. So it was borderline, right? It wasn't an agent, is this person providing legal services. So the judge said to that person, okay, will you go out and show me that you have, $500,000 in liability insurance if you get this wrong? And if you do get the insurance, you can come back and make your submissions.
Wow.
Which basically prevented that person from appearing before the court. But the judge's point was, this person's not insured. There's no recourse for the client or the public if they get it wrong. And they may make submissions to the court that are inappropriate. So I think the court's going to have a duty to regulate this as well. Shannon, what else you got?
All right, so we have a couple more minutes here. So probably time for another couple of questions. I have a question here that is saying, how should law firm owners be evaluating AI products?
Billy, this one's got your name written all over it.
I think you got to use it. You got to check it. You can't rely on its accuracy until you've vetted it. I don't think I have much beyond that. What do you think?
You're going to have to invest. And sometimes you're going to make some bad investments. There's going to be an expense to this. But if you look traditionally, one of the lawyer's biggest overhead was rent, your physical footprint. And, the size and location of your office was a status symbol. That's changed now with COVID. A lot of us are working from home. We have, our staff is working from home. The footprint isn't as big and our overhead is going down for a lot of lawyers, not everybody. Software is sort of like the new rent. You have to have good software to practice law efficiently. And you're gonna get software that's not good and software that's great, but the software that's great is going to make you so much more efficient. It's just part of your overhead right now. So you've got to build it into your budget, a reasonable software allowance. And part of that's going to be experimenting with these AI tools. That's the way I look at it. Cost of doing business, right, Billy?
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah.
And there's a cost if you don't do it too. You got to do it.
You could get left behind because your competitor is going to be doing it.
So we'll do one last question here, and then it looks like it's time to wrap up. So this question is, what should law firms expect to pay for AI software?
Jerry, you're in the business. I guess there's different models, right? You could pay by the license, by a user, by client, by seat. What are the options?
There's a ton of options today. I think like the most common, what we would call like a SaaS-based model prior to a lot of AI impacting casework is really around per seat, right? You can charge basically anywhere from $20 for ChatGPT Premium to about $200 for Harvey AI. There's quite a variation there. The challenge with paying per seat here is that it's not the benefit of AI is not only in helping you through the work you're doing. You really want to be able to expose your entire firm to access for this type of technology. So the nature of seats usually means that now you have to pick who gets one and who doesn't, kind of like how people manage their DivorceMate subscriptions. So we like the per case model for usage-based systems. And what that means is now you can factor that into the client case cost, and it really provides unlimited seating to all of the lawyers and paralegals in the firm. And you're going to use it as it goes, and it's less so of an overhead on the actual firm itself.
Yeah. Billy, do you have a preference in terms of pricing?
I don't think so. I think it's, it's so new. With the legal research platform that I signed up for, I think it was a per user. And then with Supio, it's a per client. So what's nice about that is you're paying as you use it. But the market is new, and pricing will expand and kind of settle at some point. But for now, there's a lot of variability.
I guess if you don't have the budget, paying per client, you can pass the expense along to the client as a disbursement. So that's one way to manage some of the costs. Yeah. All right, Shannon, thank you so much for those questions. They were great.
And thank you to Luv, Billy, and Jerry again for sharing your time and your expertise today. It was very insightful, and just want to thank our audience members again for all of your participation and engagement today. We really appreciate it. Once you log off the webinar, there will be a survey where you can share your feedback with us, and we always love to hear from our audience. So please feel free to put your thoughts there or reach out to me at shannon@russellalexander.com. I'll be sending a follow-up email to all of you tomorrow with show notes from today's presentation. We'll also be including information on our upcoming 3rd annual virtual summit that will be happening on September 18th and 19th. It's basically an extension of this program. We'll have 12 different presentations over the course of the 2 days. And we have the proceeds of that. It is a free event, but we are taking donations, and that will support a local women's shelter, the Denise House. And want to thank Jerry and Supio for sponsoring that event. We really appreciate it, and that will be given to the Denise House and supporting their new shelter that they're building. So stay tuned for that, and yeah, that will be coming down the pipe tomorrow. Just want to thank everyone again, and hope you all have a wonderful day.
Yeah. Thank you for your time today, Billy, Luv, Jerry. Great seeing you guys again.
Great seeing you all. Thank you.
Have a good afternoon. Thank you, Shannon.